Hi, welcome to episode 5 of the Stitching Book Nerd podcast. It is March 30th, a Sunday. I am happy to be back recording on a normal schedule. Lots to talk about today. Well, actually, not lots to talk about. Should actually be a shorter episode than usual, but still quite a bit of things to cover. So let's jump into it. Oh, thank you for returning if you're a returning viewer. If you're new, thank you for watching. Please spread the word. It's a new podcast video thing, so if you have anyone else that you think would enjoy them, please let them know. You can find me on the Cross Stitch Forum, Ravelry, and Instagram as Book Knurd, BOOKKNURD. I have been really active on Instagram lately with pictures, so if that's your preferred method of social media, please follow me there. Okay, so let's jump into it. So, stitching works in progress. No finished objects this week. Because I do stitching, finished objects are not as common as if this was like a knitting only podcast. If I just focused on knitting, I probably would have more things to show, but I don't. So anyway, whatever. I've only focused on like 3 projects in the past 2 weeks, which is kind of, and that's knitting and stitching combined. So, there's still quite a bit to show. So the first thing that I've been working on is the band sampler, which I showed you where I was the last time. This is for my grandmother on my dad's side. She used to do quilting, and she was an amazing seamstress, and so I think she would really appreciate me doing a piece like this for her. She likes that I do all these things. We like to talk about it. So I wanted to do something special for her, and I looked and looked and looked. I knew it needed to be colorful. She loves color. And I wanted it to be a pretty substantial piece that she could, put in her house. So anyway, so I found the band sampler in the magazine. I think it was on the cover. Yeah. It was on the cover of this magazine. So I saw this cover and I thought, that's what I want to make. It is a sampler, so it's not a reproduction sampler. It's not one that someone found, the actual sampler that someone stitched 200 years ago and they reproduced it. It's designed by someone who designed samplers like that. But she did it, using motifs that were common and sort of in the theme of old samplers. But what I like about it is the colors are bright. So many reproduction samplers want to make it look as though, when you're done stitching it, as if it was stitched 200 years ago. So the fabric looks aged and the threads look muted, as if they had lost color over time. And that's fine if that's your aesthetic. I just find it all looks sort of the same after a while. And also, I would rather have a sampler that looked as those antique samplers would have looked when they were first stitched. So while they didn't have the amounts of threads and colors that we do these days, they still wouldn't have been muted. Or they wouldn't have looked aged. They probably would have been more muted than we now have really bright colors, but anyway, they wouldn't have looked aged because they would have still been new at that time. So I prefer things more along that line. Anyway, so here's how far I have gotten. I have done a lot of work on this. So last time I had only done like half of the alphabet thing at the top, like part of this flower. So since then I've finished the top band, this middle band, and started this band. So at the top band, this is not the name that was on the original sampler, because that would be weird. This is my grandparents' names. My grandfather passed away almost 2 years ago, coming up this April. But his name was Joe, and they were married for over 60 years. This is the year they got married, 1950, which used to be a different year as well, but since this is kind of a remembrance of their marriage and also him, it was kind of fitting. So anyway, I love the way this is turning out. The colors are so bright. It's something different every time I stitch on it, so it keeps my interest. It's not the same thing over and over again, so I'm really liking it. Yeah, so that's basically it. All of this is cross stitch, except for in here I started getting into some specialty stitches, and then the further the bands further down the line, they're still, all the rest of the bands are about this size. So they're quite large. These are the 2 smallest bands, I believe. So there's 7 bands. I've done like 2.5. There's still a lot to go. I'm staying optimistic about my Mother's Day deadline. I don't really know that that's realistic. It's just going to depend on progress. So right now I think I'm doing okay. I'm not quite as far along as I wanted to be, but such is life. But these things take a lot of time. And I've actually had a couple days this week where I've had a really big chunks of time to work on this. Which is good and also not good. When you have a long amount of time to stitch, you do get a lot done in terms of stitching, but then you also see just how slow stitching is, because you know I just spent 5-6 hours working on this, and this is all I have to show for it. And while I understand, I mean, I know how long this stuff takes, and I know that it's part of the process, and I do think it's worth it in the end for me, but it's perhaps not the most heartening thing to realize that you just spend that much time on it, and most people would not believe that it took that long. So, for example, Wednesday night, my husband had to go to bed early because he was on call for work and had to cover someone's shift, and so I did mostly just this red motif here. It's all one color, repetitive pattern, so it actually goes pretty quickly in terms of stitching, not a lot of reference to the chart, and yet this took me, I would say, probably 4.5, 5 hours. And I stitch two-handed on a stand, so I'm not the fastest stitcher in the world, but I go pretty quickly. I mean, as quickly as I can go for certain. So when it's midnight and you've just spent that much time on something, and you're already tired of stitching because you just stitched that long. I mean, yes, after 6 hours, I'm ready to go do something else. But yeah, so kind of pros and cons to doing things like that. That happens after, like, if I go to a stitch day and spend all day stitching. Although stitch day is also like a social thing, so that's somewhat different. Anyway, so I've had a couple days like that this week since my husband's been going to bed early. This project, if I want to get it done on time, is going to need quite a few more days like that, so I'm really, at this point, motivated to get this done as soon as possible. I really, really want to give this to my grandmother on, like, a special occasion, not just out of the blue, although that wouldn't be so bad either. So, anyway, but I'm really, really pleased with how it's turning out. One thing I wanted to show you guys, this motif here, like the little strawberries. So, fun fact, I hate strawberries. I know that that's weird. They are the one food that, and I'm a pretty adventurous eater. I'll try just about anything at least one time. I'm not that picky, but I don't like a lot of fruit, so people think I'm a picky eater. Yeah, but strawberries, some fruit like apples, oranges, bananas, I can eat. I just never crave them. I never think to myself, boy, I really want an apple right now. But strawberries and berries, but strawberries in particular, make me, like, nauseous. And I don't get nauseous easily. Smelling them, seeing them, ugh. Anyway, so I wasn't looking forward to making these for that reason. And then also because these aren't cross-stitch. This is a specialty, made of a specialty stitch. I don't know. You're not going to be able to see it very well. Called Queen Stitch. So this is actually a bunch of diamonds shapes in different colors, which the shading turned out great. I'm really pleased with that. I finished these last night, I think, and I was kind of mesmerized by the shadings. I never had done shading like that in not cross stitch. So, anyway, so Queen Stitch is a specialty, counted embroidery specialty stitch. Let me find the diagram. So, if you can see, it makes this diamond. So you have to bring your thread up, come down, and then before you pull it tight, over here, you kind of pull it to the side by, couching it, basically. That's what that's called. So they take kind of a long time for not that big of a stitch. not forever. And the last time I did these, I did a wedding sampler last summer for my cousin. That was my first time doing specialty stitches. And it had queen stitch on it. It was on a piece of linen that was quite uneven, so at times it could be difficult to make sure that you were counting spaces correctly. Uneven linen, you count the same as any other fabric. It just looks weird sometimes because the holes aren't evenly spaced, so you think you're not doing it right. So that took, this linen is while not uneven weave, it's still linen. It's not perfect. It's still much more even than the linen that the last time I did specialty stitches, and it's a lot easier to see what's going on. Anyway, so I was kind of dreading these because the last time I did queen stitch, it took me forever, and they kind of look like blobs. They don't really look like diamonds. These look much better. Although this is a cluster of them, and so I think they kind of help define each other, define the shape. You know, the diamond next to another diamond kind of makes it look more like a diamond, if that makes sense. Whereas the ones that I was doing before were standalone, and they literally just look like blobs when you're done. And it's kind of frustrating to spend all that time on something and you know, do some fine detail work, and then it comes out looking that way. And that's just the way they look. It's not because I'm not that I'm the best at embroidery, but that's just how they are. So anyway, but I'm really happy with these. They went much faster than I anticipated, and they look amazing. And they don't even really look like strawberries to me because they're really pale pink at the bottom, so maybe I will call them like turnips or something, which I would rather eat than strawberries. So yeah, so I will be finishing up. There is a tree that's in the middle here, 2 motifs on this side, and then after that the bands become, that's a pretty, this band isn't symmetrical at all. I mean, what's on this side is not, it looks nothing like what's on this side. But after that, they get pretty symmetrical. There's also a lot of satin stitch, which goes a lot faster than cross stitch. So it's like shapes outlined in cross stitch and then filled with satin stitch. I'm not sure how fast that's going to go. I hope it goes fast enough. I need to have this done. Let's see, if I want to have this frame for Mother's Day. Mother's Day is like the first, second, something week in May. So I need to have this done by like a week before April's over. I don't think that's going to happen. Anyway, but I do have my retreat between now and then, so that will be a large amount of stitching time. And like I said, this is my only piece I'm focusing on right now for stitching, so I think it will go somewhat quickly, comparatively. So anyway, so that's stitching. Whoops. Knitting, I have not been doing as much of, but there are times when, you know, if we're watching TV or I'm just tired of stitching or I'm too tired, you know, I don't have that much time to get all my stuff out to stitch, so I'll knit. Which is why I'm really glad I picked knitting up, because I get, one, I mean, I just like it, and then two, you know, it gives me some variety in terms of when I can craft. This travels a lot better, so if I have a few minutes here and there when I'm out and about, that works. So this is a baby blanket that I'm making. Here, I can't quite show you the whole length. It's just that Pearl Soho Easy Stripe baby blanket. It's just garter stitch stripes in 7 different colors. I think I showed you guys last time. This is for to match the baby's bedding, which is, it's a girl, and it's like brown, pink, and green. And so the blanket will go brown to green to pink. I started with brown because it's the most boring color. They will all be boring after a while because this is not the most interesting design. But that's okay. I wanted something fast and easy that I can pick up whenever and kind of, you know, crank out. So it's going pretty well. I mean, that's 2 weeks work, but it's not, you know, like at lunch I stitch. If I have a large amount of time at home, I stitch because I'm trying to get that sampler done. So not bad for how much time has been spent on it. So anyway, so that's coming along. Hopefully next time there'll be some more interesting colors on it. And the next thing I did, I'm actually really excited about. So I have one other project I've been working on, sort of. So at the beginning of this year, I kind of sat down, and I do make New Year's resolutions, not quite, more just like general ideas of what I'd like to work on for that year. And I certainly do when it comes to crafting, or I did this year. This was the first year I've been crafting at the beginning of the year. So, amongst most of my goals for crafting were learning new techniques or whole crafts for that matter. And one of them was to learn how to knit socks. So I have started doing so. And so when I decided to learn how to knit socks, if you knit, you know that there are many different ways to knit socks. From watching podcasts, I kind of figured out what some of those ways looked like. So the two main ways are on double pointed needles or on magic loop. So double pointed needles is like a set of 3 needles, or not 3 needles, 4 to 5 needles, and if you have 4 needles, 3 of the needles make up a loop that hold all your stitches in a circle, and then one of the other needles is the one you use to knit on, and so you just kind of go around and around. But that didn't really appeal to me, just knowing the way that I like to craft. It looked really fiddly. There's too many needles flying around. My cat just said something weird. So I thought I would try magic loop instead. And so that's what I did. And then also the other option I had to decide on is if I wanted to knit my socks cuff down, so from the top to the bottom, or toe up, bottom to top. Toe up appealed to me because I tend to like longer socks, and so I'll probably want to make them, make sure I can make them as long as possible. And if you knit toe up, you don't have to worry about gauging how much yarn you're going to need, because if you run out, that's it. You just stop and you have a sock. Whereas if you're knitting cuff down and you run out, then you may not have a sock. It may be too short. So anyway, I decided that's what I would try to do. Even though a lot of times if you look at beginning sock patterns, they'll have you knit cuff down because it's easier to get started. But I didn't find it too hard. So I learned how to do the Judy's Magic cast on for the toe and do all the increases, and then that's as far as I've gotten. I haven't gotten to the heel yet. When I do, I'll probably do the Fleagle heel. I think that's what's in the little tutorial I'm looking at that has videos and stuff. But anyway, so when I first started, so my gauge has been, now that I've kind of settled into the way that I knit, my gauge I've found is a little tighter than what's usually called for. I usually need to go up a couple needle sizes to get gauge, like for the baby blanket. That's what I did. But for socks, I like a snugger sock. I like a slightly more dense fabric on socks, so I didn't want to go up too. I thought that would make it too loose. I probably would have, right gauge, but the fabric wouldn't be what I wanted when I was knitting it. So I went with what they called for, which was a size 3 needle. This is what I got. On the toe, I just kind of guesstimate, or I think they had sizing based on circumference of your foot. And it actually fits okay if I put this on my toe, but it's super loose. The fabric to me is super loose and stretchy. I can feel my toes wiggling around, and I don't like that. I kind of want my toes to be not squish or losing circulation, but happy and snug. So anyway, so I got to here and I decided that's not quite what I wanted, so I went down 2 needle sizes. And I'm just experimenting right now. I'm kind of trying to figure out a basic idea of what I like for socks so that I can have kind of a formula for my foot in mind. Because I think something I would, like to knit a lot of. Because I think I mentioned I like wearing these kind of different socks. Anyway. So this is on a size US 1 needle, which is a 2.25 millimeter. And this is kind of a short cable for magic loop, but it works okay. I think this is 24 inch. It's what I had. So I went with it. But yeah, I haven't gotten very far. I think I just finished the decreases for the toe. So now it's just straight stitching. And I will do that for a couple inches to see how I like it, and if I like it, I will continue on to the heel, and if I don't, I will try to figure out what the next modification I need to make to kind of figure out what I want. But the fabric is, it's stretchy, but it's not too stretchy, and, it's got good coverage. I feel like it's dense enough, but not without, being super dense, so I like it. Anyway, and this is in This yarn I got at Michael's, like the Loops and Threads luxury sock, I think, which is some of my practice sock yarn. So that's what I'm doing, is practicing. But it is self-striping, and I like it. I mean, the color here on the size 3, you can see more of the colors. I think it's interesting. So anyway, but that's really exciting. I can finally say I'm knitting socks. It's probably only exciting to me. Okay, so that's it. That's all I've been working on. That will probably be all I am working on for a while. Yep, until I get this band sampler done. Then I have something that needs to be done for Father's Day. No matter how much I tell myself I'm not gonna, I'll work on a project that has a deadline. I'm like, I'm not doing deadline projects anymore, and I always do, and it's always like a really fast deadline on a big project. Anyway, so I do have a little bit of stash enhancement, nothing like last time, but, well, one thing I had ordered a while ago, which I had talked about the Blackwork sampler I want to do, which I'm dying to start on. I can't yet, but I really, really want to, but now I could, theoretically, because I have my fabric for it. This is a really subtle color. I don't know, I mean, it's sort of the color, not really. It's a super pale, like, oyster shell gray. In fact, that may have been the name, like oyster shell, pale oyster or something. It's a really subtle neutral, but not white. It's not creamy, really, although it looks like that, sort of. It's cooler than a creamy color, which is what I was looking for. I think it's gonna work for what I wanted it to be. So, it's a huge piece of fabric. I was in the shop, I think it was like on our Tuesday stitch night, when my, it had come in, and she was cutting the piece for me off the bolt that had come in. And it is 28 count Joblin linen, so that's just a linen, but it's a really even linen, and it's light, it just says light gray. It's 25 by 40 inches. It's huge. So, yeah, I mean, it's gonna be ginormous. Anyway, I'm super, super excited about this. I think it's gonna be gorgeous. I can't wait to start planning, which is the next step. I'm gonna have to get some more threads so that I can really just sit down and play with colors. That is my all-time favorite thing to do with knitting or stitching is to mess around with colors. So anyway, so I'm excited about that. And what else did I get? Oh, a couple weeks ago, so last fall I did LASIK surgery for my eyes. I used to be really, really blind, and now I can see. So that's exciting. Anyway, so this eye center that I did it for is pretty popular in this area, and they do television commercials, like testimonial commercials, and they wanted me to do one because I had used their newer doctor or something like that. So I did, and they sent me a gift certificate, like a Visa gift card for like, I don't remember, it wasn't that much, but it was, a nice gift. And so, so I took it to Michael's, and I have been wanting to start not a scrapbook really, but sort of, more like a photo album of all my projects that I do. I give away so many of my projects, especially stitching projects. I actually don't have a finished stitching project that's in my house. They've all been given away, and I've finished quite a few since I've started. I mean, not like a ton, but enough. Anyway, so I wanted an album, so especially for the ones I give away, I can remember what they looked like and what the project was, and I can write down any notes I want about the project or the experience stitching it. So I was kind of looking for a way to do that, and there's lots of scrapbooking options. Like I said, I don't really want to get into scrapbooking, like making scrapbook pages and all that. I really just wanted, like a photo album system that would work for me. So I've decided to go with a Project Life system. So I got a small Project Life binder. It's the 6x8. I don't want a huge thing, at least not right now. So I got that. I got some dividers to put things in. So I have this has 2 vertical 3x4 spots on the top and a 4x6. So my idea, it's the same thing. That's 2 4x6s. And that's 4 3x4s. So my idea is that I can take, pictures that I've taken, which I have of all the projects I've done. I can get prints made of them, like at Walgreens or something. And so that'll be really easy and fast. I don't have to do it at home or anything, which I don't want to. And then I also have a spot there to put like little note cards of what I've done. What fabric I used, how long I worked on it, who I gave it to, any notes I had, things like that. So I got the little Project Life note cards to go in there, which on this side they have horizontal lines, and on the other side, which you probably can't see through the package, you can turn them this way and the lines go this way. So I'm excited. So that was the most of that card, and then I also got some sock yarn. So I really was going to see if they had any more of that luxury sock yarn. I think Michael's is discontinuing it, or mine is. It's not there, which is kind of sad because it's nice. I mean, it has nylon in it and it's soft, but anyway. So I got some Patton's Croy socks in this color, which is Rusty Stripes. I think these are really nice. I would like these. My husband would probably like these, so that works for me. I also got another skein of Patton's Croy in this is the blue striped rag. Because the gray has a blue stripe in it. Interesting. So this is the rag color, but there's also a blue stripe running through all the colors. I've seen lots of podcasters making these. So just a nice striping sock. And again, I would like these colors. My husband will like these colors, so it gives me some options there. If you remember in my last stash update, I had bought a lot of the Knit Picks Felici sock, which when I got it, I thought it was like super soft and pretty. And so they're discontinuing that for sure. I had gotten all the colors I wanted that they still have on their site that were on sale. And I decided to go look on Ravelry to see if anybody was destashing any of it, because it's about to get really hard to find. Most people who have it don't want to sell it. So I did find a couple of people destashing, so I just went through and found ones that, that I like the colors, and just said, hey, is this still available to buy, and then waited to hear back. And I got 2 people. I think 2 of them had been sold and hadn't been updated on the page that it was sold, which is fine. And then 2 of them I got. Anyway, sorry. So one of them is this colorway, which we're not actually sure what this is. The lady I bought it from, she had bought it on a destash where she'd been told it was the colorway, but she knows it's not that colorway. She thinks it's Martinique, I think. I don't care what colorway it is. I like the color, so possibly Martinique, but either way I like it. So that will be me socks, not husband socks. By the way, I don't know if my husband wants knit socks yet. I'm going to make him a pair of socks and see if he likes them. And if he doesn't, then they will all be for me or whoever else wants socks. And then the other one I got, they actually had this in the store when I was buying stuff from Knit Picks. But I got it on a destash because I didn't buy it. I think I was going to, and then I didn't. Because I had already bought several colors. But anyway, this is the Knit Picks Cheer. I like this a lot. I mean, it's called Cheer, so it's like Christmas peppermint colors. But it's also just a cool, red and white doesn't have to be just Christmas. So anyway, so I really like this. My husband said he liked it too. So we will see. I don't know. I kind of like these. I don't really want to give them to him. But anyway. So that's all of the stash I have. Not that bad, actually, especially since most of that was on a gift card. So that's pretty much it. What's coming up? It's like less than 2 weeks to our stitching retreat. I'm so excited. This will be my first any kind of retreat or crafting retreat to go on. This is with all the ladies most of the ladies from my local stitching store. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I think we're supposed to get there on like a Thursday afternoon, come home on Sunday. And it's at like a retreat center, so It's going to be all stitching all the time. Like, we're not going to any stores because there aren't any nearby. And I want to say that she'll have like a pop-up shop, but I'm really not looking to buy any projects. I can't guarantee that I won't, but I don't think so. Oh yeah, it's almost April. That means it's almost my birthday month. So excited. I'm an only child of divorced parents, so my birthday used to last for a month just because by the time I saw everyone on both sides of my family and, my grandparents and all that stuff, and I had received all my birthday gifts, it was a month on, 2 weeks on either side of my birthday. So that kind of stuck with me. So now when we hit April, it's my birthday. I was somewhat spoiled. Well, only as spoiled as like any only child is because you're the only kid around. But anyway, so things I'm getting for my birthday. Now I just want crafty stuff, and so especially since I've been wanting to branch out into other areas like sewing, I've been looking at sewing machines. I think I found one I want from a local dealer that I'm pretty happy with. It's a Genome. I think that's how you say them. Good. I think it will be a good beginning machine. And then if I want to upgrade, they have a good upgrade program there. And then I also ordered a present for myself that is from my husband, but really I just bought it for me. That will be stitching related, and I think I'll finally have my stitching setup complete. So I will show you that when it comes. It's on its way. I think it'll be here next week, and so I will have it. I ordered it now instead. My birthday's in the middle of the month, but I ordered it now instead of later, so I'd have it before the retreat because the retreat is before my birthday. So that's coming up. I did really want a spinning wheel, but I think that's going to be a little out of my price range right now. The sewing machine will be a gift from my parents, I think. They'll both give me money. I think I've told them, please give me money so I can buy a sewing machine. So that will be from them. So yeah, so that's what's coming up. So I think all we have left to talk about is books, and we're just at a little over 30 minutes, so not doing too bad on time. So I actually finished books. Yay! You obviously didn't know me before I started crafting, but I used to read a lot more than I do now, so going over a month without finishing a book is kind of excruciatingly slow for me, but there's just not that much time in the day. So anyway, I finished At Home. This was really, 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 really good. It was Bill Bryson's kind of, A Short History of Private Life is the subtitle. It did focus mostly on Western history, British and American history for sure. A lot of it was in the last 200 years, which is fine, but it's certainly not like he touched on some other areas of the world and time periods, but that's certainly not where the focus was. But what he did was, he lives in a old rectory, I think. So, yeah. So, a house that a clergyman would have lived in the countryside of England. And so he went through each room of that house and then kind of talked about the history behind things in that room. So, in the dining room, he talked about the history behind utensils and eating habits and all of that kind of stuff. In the nursery, he talked about how childhood evolved and our ideas of childhood and what it means to be a kid. Touched on child labor from the 1800s, especially in England. And just different things like that. But there's so much information here, like fact after fact after fact. But which sounds kind of boring if you don't like nonfiction, which I'm not the biggest nonfiction reader. But he does it in like the most conversational, witty tone, and it's just fun to read. I mean, he's funny, he's charming. It just sounds like you're sitting down talking with a really knowledgeable, that professor that you had in school that just was so full of knowledge about whatever it was you were interested in. You could talk to for hours. It's like that. Which I wasn't a history major, but I still find these things interesting. So, anyway, I highly recommend it. I think I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, which is a good, I don't give out that many high ratings. So, not that I'm you should covet my ratings authors, but anyway. Yeah, so I was happy with this. Finished that. I also finished Etiquette and Espionage, the audiobook I was listening to by Gail Carriger. It was lots of fun, very fluffy read, fluffy for young adults, so that's pretty fluffy. Although I'm not in the camp that thinks young adult is all insubstantial, which seems to be quite a few. The way a lot of adults feel. But that's okay. Anyway, so I finished that. Really liked it. We'll definitely listen or read the next one. I don't know when. Not immediately. I don't know what I'm going to listen to next. Probably something a little meatier than what I have been listening to. But I have quite a few things to choose from on Audible. That I already have. And then I also have a good selection in our online library thing. So, anyway. So I'll be thinking about that. But in the meantime, I will be focusing on The Secret History, which I am over halfway through now. This is split up into, books. And it just went to book 2, I think. Yeah. And it's getting quite interesting. I mean, it was interesting already. Sometimes there are books that I like, I'm interested in, and I just don't read them. And I don't know what the deal is with that. It's not because they're slow or I'm not enjoying them. I just won't pick them up sometimes. And that's been the case with this book. That's why it took me over a year and a half to read Oliver Twist for no good reason. Which is just a ridiculous amount of time to read a book. That isn't something like the Bible. But anyway, so I will hopefully have this finished by the next time I talk to you guys, and I'll be, I'm also still reading Dodger, but it hasn't really seen much in the last couple of weeks, so maybe I'll have that one done too. And then I will have all my books read on my currently reading list, which means I can pick 5 new books to start, which is exciting. So yeah, so that's going well. I guess I should actually say something about this book. This is definitely literary fiction. That's maybe why it's taking me longer to read. I'm not the biggest fan of literary fiction. I like some of it. I've recently, in my reading history, in the last year or two, started branching out more and trying to find some that I like. But I either will really like it or I don't like it, and I'm kind of not happy that I spent time reading it. I don't know what it is about literary fiction. It's not like I think I can't appreciate it. It just tends to not be. I really am interested in storytelling, how people craft stories, whether that's through plot or character. And literary fiction is not always about storytelling. It can be about lots of different things. And then also, too, literary fiction tends to be realistic fiction, which is fine. But some realistic fiction I'm just not interested in reading about. So, yeah. Anyway, but I'm really liking this. It's different, and it's... I don't know what I was talking about. Let me just read the back cover. Under the influence of their charismatic classics professor, a group of clever, eccentric misfits at an elite New England college discover a way of thinking and living that is a world away from the humdrum existence of their contemporaries. That's a sentence. But when they go beyond the boundaries of normal morality, they slip gradually from obsession to corruption and betrayal and last inexorably into evil. It's just a really interesting character study. It's this group of students. They're kind of isolated from all the other students in their school because they do this really non-traditional program of studying classics. Kind of the epitome of the liberal arts student, where it's just education for education's sake that has almost no practical application. And they kind of get into this where they want to experience these rituals that they've read about in ancient Greek texts about kind of having an out-of-body experience, and they start doing things like that, and that leads them down paths that I don't think they thought they were going down. Anyway, and so it's just really interesting, and kind of their group dynamic is a big plays a big part in this as well. So, after listening to me talk about it, you probably have no desire to read this, but the worse I describe a book, probably the better it is. I'm not really good at that. I'm trying to get better at it. So, anyway, yeah, so that's it. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in 2 weeks, which will be, I hope to see you in 2 weeks. Maybe a day or so late, because that will be right after my retreat, and I may not have time that Sunday to make an episode, which is usually when I record. But anyway, I hope to have a lot more progress to show you on the band sampler. That will be the focus for a while. And hopefully I will have some new books to talk about. So anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great week. Bye.